So in this video we're going to go through some basic crawling patterns. Now crawling is obviously one of the first ways that we start to move around any significant distance as we are developing as children, and it sets the stage for the cross pattern coordination that we then take into things like walking and running. So it's a really important developmental movement. It starts to build stability in the shoulders, it starts to build some mobility and load tolerance through the wrists and toes and ankles. They're also really valuable movement patterns to be practicing as an adult because you get the same benefits and you get to build more confidence moving around on the ground. So we're going to go through a knee-hand crawl and then two variations of a foot-hand crawl, and we'll talk through the relevance of each one as we go. So we'll start with the knee-hand crawl. Now this is the most basic and simple crawling pattern that you'll go through. It's the pattern that you'd also see most infants doing most of the time. So literally, as it sounds, crawling on your hands and knees. So you can see here, this is a great way to start developing that cross pattern that we were talking about, or the contralateral movement pattern, which is essentially your arms and legs moving at the opposite time. So your right arm would move with your left leg and left arm move with your right leg. So this is really important for maintaining balance and the coordination of the movement. And doing this on your knees is a great way to build that before you step up the complexity and the stability requirements of the foot-hand crawl. Moving on to the foot-hand crawl. So this is basically the exact same movement pattern as the knee-hand crawl, still using that contralateral movement, except now this time you're up onto your toes or your feet and your knees are off the ground. So this is a great way to crawl. You can crawl quite quickly with this movement pattern. You can obviously get your center of gravity quite low, so this can come in handy if you're just getting under something or you're perhaps balancing on something and you need to drop your center of gravity. It's also a really great way to start increasing the challenge to your stability through the core and through the shoulders especially, and just to keep increasing the load bearing capacity through the wrists and the mobility through the toes. So a great pattern to be working on. Just a couple of things to watch out for. You want to make sure that you're maintaining a neutral spine as much as possible, not allowing too much flexion or extension through the spine. You also want to be working on minimizing the amount of rotation through the movement or the amount of sway. So you can see from this view from behind, then I want to maintain a pretty steady pelvis or trunk region, and you don't want it to be swaying side to side. Obviously there's going to be a little bit of sway, but just trying to minimize it. So moving on to the next variation of the foot-hand crawl. This is an inverted foot-hand crawl, which is, as it sounds, pretty much the exact same movement pattern, except we've just flipped it over so that our front is facing up. Now, this isn't a movement pattern that you'd necessarily see many or any infants using as part of their development. However, from a functional or a natural movement perspective, then this pattern would really come in handy when you are trying to walk down or crawl down a really steep slope, say in a natural environment, or if you just need to move very quickly from a seated position. And as you can see, this movement creates a new and a unique challenge to your shoulder stability, this time through extension rather than flexion. And so this movement is a great way to build awareness and strength and control through that range of motion. Now, something you have to watch out for with this is just making sure that you are actively pushing against the ground. So this will bring your shoulder blades into some retraction and depression, and is a great way to condition the muscles of that area. What you want to avoid is allowing your shoulder girdle to elevate so that your shoulders come up near your ears like this. it just doesn't give you a very stable platform to push off and can lead to some excess or unnecessary strain and irritation through the shoulders and neck. So making sure you're pushing down actively. Alright, so just work through these movement patterns at your own pace and start from the start. Again, these patterns are quite basic, quite easy, but working on them and smoothing them out and increasing the stability through these movements is actually a really good thing to be working on, and will have good carryover benefits into lots of other movements that we will be working through in future videos.